To you, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. And yeah, Lou's going to be looking after the slides. So don't worry too much, Lou. I'm not going to use all the slides either, but I'll be showing some. I really enjoyed being with you 2 weeks ago. Sparkling. So I loved all the questions and stuff as well. I really enjoyed it. So if there's any more tonight, keep them coming, because I love what you've got to say as well. And I love the Bible. I love the Bible as the word of God. I believe the Bible is the word of God. We read out earlier, what is it? We believe the word of God, the Holy Bible, is the final authority in our life. I've got an NIV translation. That's what I use. Anybody here use King James Version? Yeah, King James. That's the old these and thys. Beautiful language, King James Version. That's an old translation of the Bible. Very beautiful to use. Tell you what, though, I've got a Bible here that's older than the King James Version. This one makes the King James Version of the Bible, with its these and thys, the new kid on the block, because this one is the Geneva Bible. And it's an actual copy of the Geneva Bible. There inside, it gives you the date when this was printed. And this was printed in 1610. That's a 413-year-old copy of the Bible. And it's beautiful, beautifully produced in Geneva, in Switzerland, but in English. And that actually, a lot of the English of that Bible is in the King James Bible. That's where they got it from. And it's a load of translators 500 years ago who got the Bible into English. And that's the Geneva Bible. You have a look at that afterwards if you want. It's an archaeological artifact, right? Nearly, 420 years old. And of course, the Bible goes back, copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, all the way back 2,000 years ago. And I want to talk to you a little bit tonight about why we can believe in these words of 2 Peter. Because Peter said about the Bible, Peter said, we did not follow cleverly devised stories where we told you about the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ in power, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. So this book, whether it's a modern translation or an older translation, this is not fairy tale and fiction. It's about real people and real places. And I'm going to give you a little bit of tonight. Last time, right, we talked about the Old Testament. If you were here 2 weeks ago, we did the Old Testament mostly. And I showed you, you remember I showed you, those who were here, an old oil lamp. Makes it sound like nothing. This old oil lamp. Now, anybody remember that one was, I don't know if you do remember, that one comes from Samaria in Israel. So it's from the Holy Land, and it comes from Old Testament times. Anybody remember how old it was?
2.5. 3.
Any more bids? Any more bids? Well, very is good. 2,700 years old, okay? 2,700. It's at the earliest, well, the latest, it's 722 BC. So in other words, that's an Old Testament oil lamp, 2,700 years old. But in my pocket, that was last time, that's so last year. We're now talking about another kind of oil lamp, because this is from the time of Jesus. So this is only 2,000 years old. We're getting just more and more recent, just a baby. It's called Byzantine, this oil lamp. It's that's not original. Something's written on it. It's actually broken. If you have a look at it later on, it's actually cracked, but it's been stuck back together again. So it's not done too badly for 2,000 years. Now, what I want you to see, okay, we're getting to archaeology tonight. I hope you're going to enjoy archaeology, okay? Doesn't matter what you might think. I'm a bit of a Tony Robinson, right? Like Time Team. I get very excited about this. Bit of archaeology for you. That oil lamp is from about the time of King David in the Old Testament, a bit after King David, right? King David lit oil lamps like that, and they were around his house. It comes from the time of Isaiah, actually. It could have belonged to Isaiah. We don't know who it belonged to, but that's the oil lamp they lit. This oil lamp is from the time of Jesus. Look how different it is. King David never saw an oil lamp like that. There are no oil lamps like that in Old Testament times. Totally different, changes. Jesus didn't use an oil lamp like this. They didn't exist at the time of Jesus. The fashion had gone. That was the fashion like 3,000 years ago. And that was the fashion 2,000 years ago. And that's totally consistent. If you dig a hole in the Holy Land, okay, if you dig a hole and dig up pottery and broken things, you find one like that, you know that it's going to be around the time of Jesus. If you find one like that, you know you're going to be around the time of King David, King Hezekiah, around that kind of time. The fashions change over time. And that's brilliant for archaeology, because it means we can start to say when things are being used and who are using them. And you can line them up. Have you ever seen it with Coke bottles, by the way? You know, Coca-Cola bottles. They change design over the years. You can actually see them if you look at Google Coke bottle pictures. Actually, about every 10 years, they change the shape slightly of a Coca-Cola bottle. And so it was the same with pottery oil lamps. They changed how they did them. So that is from the time of Jesus, and that's the style of oil lamp. Jesus never knew about these ones. Sorry, somebody last time wanted a photo and I'd already packed it away. But if you want a photo, or hold that one, you're touching the world of the Old Testament when you hold that one. Now you're touching the world of the New Testament when you hold this one. And this is our theme tonight, world of Jesus. See, how do we know the New Testament is about real people and real places? Lou, should I just keep like clicking? Click. So you click. This is our theme tonight, right? So real people and real places and real events. All I can do with you tonight is give you a couple of examples, but I'm going to take you on a dig with me tonight, okay? So I go to and fro to Galilee, actually, in Israel, where I've been involved in a couple of different excavations. And one of them, well, they're all really exciting, but one of them is really, really exciting. I'm going to tell you about what we found there. And it's really over the last few years, and it is really significant for understanding the Bible, what we read in the New Testament. So I'm going to get there in a minute, but let's start by telling us something about people of the New Testament. Pontius Pilate, let's start with him. Pontius Pilate. Now look, he was the Roman governor who signed the death warrant for Jesus. And you might think to yourself, well, okay, that's easy, okay? Of course, you can have loads of records of Roman leaders. That's not a problem. We want to know about the people in the Bible, but Pilate is in there. But surely we have loads of records of Pontius Pilate. Do you know, we don't. We don't have anything of Pontius Pilate until the 1960s. And in the 1960s, this was found just off the Mediterranean coast in Israel. And it's a sort of standing stone with an inscription on it. And if you click, the inscription shows up a bit clearer if you click on one. You can't quite make it out, but you can actually see it. It's still there. You can see it with the Mediterranean Sea behind you. And so if you click, oh, there it is. Yeah, there's the writing on it. That's Latin. Okay, so it's not quite our language, but it's Latin. But you can see the words Pontius Pilate, prefect, because that was his title, prefect, Roman governor. It is the standing stone from the palace of Pontius Pilate. So from the 1960s, we know that Pontius Pilate, this is not set in a fairy tale world. You've not just got to Disneyland when you open the Bible. This is not about Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. This is about real people. Pontius Pilate. Now, that was the first thing that was found, but then gets even better. Now, in the 1990s, I think it was, they're excavating. You find loads of stuff on digs, right? Little metal things as well. And you stick them into boxes, shoe boxes, really, and they get stored away because not everything is shiny or gold or exciting. And then it's left for people to wash and clean and see if it's important. Something little was found at an excavation I'll tell you about in a second, and it was stuck in a box and it was forgotten about for about 40 years before somebody cleaned it. And this is what they found. Click. It's a little, we're seamless, aren't we? You and me, we're seamless. It's like it's good, it's good. It's a little ring. It's a little copper ring. And on this ring, there's an inscription, and you can just about, in the drawing, you just about see some letters, and the letters say, in Greek, Pilate. In fact, it says, belonging to Pilate, or of Pontius Pilate. In other words, it's Pilate's ring. It is the ring of Pontius Pilate, and it was found in the palace where where he wasn't a king, he was a governor, but he'd taken over a palace and used it as his HQ. And this was a ring. It had been so kind of corroded that nobody, when it was found, thought it was important, and it had been filed away. And just a few years ago, they announced it to the world. We don't just have the name of Pontius Pilate. I mean, that would be, this isn't it, by the way, but we don't just have the name of Pontius Pilate. We got the ring. And you know, that ring was on a hand that was involved in giving the decree, the execution of Jesus. And we've got the ring that is the closest thing to the actual person who is involved in that decision. Pontius Pilate's ring. I tell you, it was found, by the way. It's still a little bit of a side story, okay? But you're going to give me a bit of time tonight, aren't you? Because loads of stuff I want to share. So if you just click, it's a bit of a side story, but where it was found was here. It looks like a volcano when you see it from the ground. It's just outside of Bethlehem. It's near Bethlehem. You can see Bethlehem if you look down. It's a man-made hill. It's called the Herodian. And the reason why it's called the Herodian is it was built by King Herod. King Herod built this. That's before the time of Jesus, when Jesus was a baby, you remember? When Jesus was born, King Herod was on the throne. He then dies, King Herod dies, but he leaves this massive palace, which then Pontius Pilate comes and lives in. And that's where the ring was found. It was found inside this palace. Actually, if you just click, I think that's, that's inside. So inside that hill, it's seamless. Inside that hill, there's all this archaeology. It's amazing what you can see. There's tunnels underneath as well. And the corner there is where that ring was found that I was telling you about. But this palace structure of King Herod, so it belonged to King Herod. Herod, we sometimes call him Herod the Great. I tell you, if he was great at anything, it was evil. He was great at evil things. He did loads of nasty things, King Herod. So remember, he's the king when Jesus was born. And he's the one who then decreed that all the baby children in Bethlehem should be massacred because he had heard the rumor that Jesus was born. And he was the king behind that. When King Herod died, he died soon after Jesus was born. So about 4 or 5 years after Jesus was born. So Jesus would have been a toddler when Herod was around, and then he died. When he died, he gave an order. We read about this. It's been recorded. He gave an order that they should round up all the noble leaders. They should gather them together, the men, the noble men. There's a whole list of them. They should be gathered together. And when he died, all those noble men should be executed. And the reason why, he says, is so that there will be mourning in the land at my departure. Because otherwise he knew nobody would miss him. Everybody would be delighted he was dead. So he gave that instruction just so that people would be crying and weeping because they'd lost their husbands, right? When he died. We know from the history they never carried out his order. Now, here's the thing though. They did bury him. And we know they buried him, gave him a great funeral and everything. But nobody knew where he was buried. And this has been a great mystery of archaeology. Where was his burial? Because it was significant. And his tomb was only found about 10 years ago. And if you click on, it was found here at the Herodian, but it was in a hidden tunnel. And they found it now in the side. They didn't expect that. You see what I mean by a volcano, by the way? You can see it from Jerusalem. It's massive, absolutely huge. Stands up, on the horizon. So it's right close to Bethlehem, but from Jerusalem, you can see it in the distance. And it's not a natural hill. That's not a volcano. That's man-made. As a man-made hill, and it was built by King Herod as a palace. And then when he dies, he gets buried there, but people have forgotten where he's buried until this archaeologist, if you just click on, what I'm about to tell you gets a bit gruesome, by the way. But anyway, if you look here, this is the what they've discovered. They're sort of rebuilding it to show it to you. And so this is the tomb built in the side, and that is the sarcophagus of King Herod. And one of the reasons why no one had found it is they'd smashed it to pieces in the ancient world, and they'd obviously thrown the body to the dogs. They hated Herod so much that not long after he was buried, they destroyed his tomb, smashed up his sarcophagus, and threw his body away. But nonetheless, archaeologists found it. And if you just click on a slide there, that's Ehud Netzer. He's the archaeologist that found it. So he found it. It was his lifetime search as an archaeologist. He spent about 20 years actually just trying to find this tomb because he thought he knew where it should be. He finally found it. He reconstructs sarcophagus, and there he is at the Israel Museum there in Jerusalem, showing off his find. And then within a year, he was back on the site, slipped and fell, broke his neck and died. Died on the site. It's like the curse of King Herod, you see, looming over history. So there's a bit of a tragic story to it, but well, a very tragic story, but that was the discovery of Herod's tomb. If you click on, oh yeah, okay. Now places. Now I want to tell you about a place I've been involved in. So there's lots of places associated with the ministry of Jesus that are gradually being found, but they were lost to history. Now, you might say to me, well, why don't we just like preserve them? If there was a city, why didn't it continue to be used? Well, for various reasons, cities actually come and go. Sometimes they get built on top of by later cities, and they're buried underneath. That can make them hard to find. Sometimes, for other reasons, they just get abandoned and the grass grows over and the dust settles. This is one of them. This is Capernaum. Capernaum is an amazing place now because so much has been done there. I'd love to spend a lot of time talking about Capernaum, but I'm not going to. I'm just because I've got other things to talk about. But Capernaum, they knew where it was, Capernaum, roughly, but nobody had actually excavated it. And then, particularly in the 1960s, they excavated. And I could tell you a lot of exciting things that have been found at Capernaum because it was like if you remember in the Gospels, it's the home base for Jesus. He's always going to Capernaum. He stays at the home of Simon Peter's mum. That's his home base in Capernaum. And so I'd like to tell you more about that actually, because we have found the house. And I can give you the evidence. I can give you the evidence that it is the actual house. But I've not got time to do that tonight. That's for another time. Well, I mean, I wasn't involved in that either. That was found in the 1960s, but archaeologists found the house. Anyway, these are some of the streets of Capernaum from the time of Jesus, and it's a pretty amazing place to see. On that slide, it's going to be important actually. On that slide, do you notice all the stone is kind of like a black kind of stone? That's the stone they were using. It's a volcanic stone. That's what they were using around the Galilee, where Jesus spent most of his time. And you might, if you've got good eyes, you might just be able to pick out a little slither of blue before you get to the mountains. That's the Sea of Galilee. And the Sea of Galilee, that's far side of the Sea of Galilee, actually. It comes all the way around. It comes up to the side of Capernaum, and that city was found. Why was it lost? Why was it abandoned? Why did the grass grow over? Massive earthquake. There was a big earthquake about 363 AD, so about 1600 years ago. Big earthquake. And it made it unusable. So they abandoned the site and they built elsewhere. And then, of course, you know, as the grass grows over, people forget where places were and they forget, well, the home of Simon Peter, that is an amazing place, but they forgot about it and the grass grew over. And it's only in the 1960s they recovered it. But that wasn't the only problem, okay? Capernaum's found. And there's lots of other places that have been found. There's places that are being found even while we speak. There's another place that's only been found the last 3 years. It's a town called Migdol, and it's the hometown of Mary Magdalene. That's a really exciting one. Mary Magdalene is an amazing woman in the Gospels. And we know her hometown because Mary Magdalene means Mary of Migdol. And nobody knew where Migdol was until, well, it's probably about 10 years ago they actually found the site. And then they've been excavating over the last 10 years. And now it's quite a big, they know it's quite a big town now, Migdol, where Mary came from, but it had all been under the grass and the dust. Anyway, all of that is to get around to talk about one that I've been involved in. And here's another lost city, another lost town. Now, thank you. You are thinking in my mind. You are thinking, what? This is amazing. So seamless, so seamless. And this is the town that we call Bethsaida. Bethsaida is really important in the Gospels. It's the hometown of 3 apostles, the close friends of Jesus. It's very important. And it was lost. Nobody knew where it was. Till about the year 2000, no one knew where Bethsaida was. It had gone to history. It had vanished. In fact, some skeptics said, there's no such place. They read about Bethsaida, and it's important because not only those apostles who come from there, but also, was it Andrew, Philip, and Peter comes from there. Simon Peter's mum's in Capernaum. Peter comes there. Not only that, though, also healing of the blind man. Close to Bethsaida is the feeding of the 5,000. The walking on the water actually is not far from Bethsaida, but on the sea. So anyway, miracles abound around Bethsaida. So the skeptics said, but there is no Bethsaida. There is no place around the shore of Galilee that the Bible describes as Bethsaida that exists. It's just not there. That's what they said, the skeptics. And until the 1990s, when suddenly something started to emerge that suggests, hang on a minute, there is a Bethsaida. And that's what we've come to find. Now, okay, first of all, why was there no town that fitted the description? Well, here's why. Bethsaida, Hebrew name, and Hebrew names always mean things. Bethsaida means house of the fishermen. So it must be a fishing town. And everybody from Bethsaida we read about in the Gospels, they're all fishermen. They all go fishing. They got fishing businesses. So the fishermen living in the house of the fisherman, a town, and there was nothing around the shore of Galilee that fits that description, not the part of Galilee where Jesus sails a boat over to. So people said, it's made up. There's another problem as well, is there's no references to Bethsaida outside of the Bible, not in that part of the world. There were references in Christian literature later on, but apart from one that I'll come back to in a second, there's no other reference to Bethsaida outside of the Gospels. So people said, this is surely made up. No. So if you just look on this next slide, this is the site where we've been excavating. There's standing up at Bethsaida, looking down. This is beautiful, isn't it? So you're looking down across to the shore. Okay, it's a photograph, and colours change in photographs, don't they? But I just want you to notice from this photograph, what do you think of the colour of the grass around you? It's yellow. It's yellow. I know it's evening light, but still, the grass is generally pretty yellow because it's very hot. Do you know, when we excavate there, when we go out, it's 40 degrees centigrade. We start at 6 in the morning before sunrise, and we finish by midday. And then we're gone back to the air-conditioned hotel and the swimming pool. Because you can't excavate in the afternoon, 40 degrees temperature. It's really hot. So the grass turns yellow. Well, anyway, click on, Luke. Here's the view. Now you can't see much here. This is actually a video clip, but the video won't play, so don't worry about that. This is Bethsaida, or Bethsaida, as we now know it. What you can see here in this picture is the Sea of Galilee at the top. Do you see that? Sea of Galilee. And then you see, if you look on the left-hand side where the yellow is, and then there's a little bit of grey rock, that's an excavation. It's been going on now for 20 years. I've been part of it for a few of them. And that is the excavation of a town. Now, here is a problem. Well, can you see a problem? Why? People knew there was something here. They knew there was a ruin here. They knew there was a town. But why would people say that's got nothing to do with Bethsaida? It's a bit far from the sea. It's very hard to have fishermen 1.5 kilometers from the sea, a mile from the sea. Doesn't work. Apart from the fact, if you click on, I don't know if you'll see this clearly, but they did a little test on the shoreline, and the shoreline has been changing because the Sea of Galilee shifts over time. The shore changes. And if you look there, the present day, you can't quite see it on our screen because the way that it shows it, but there's a little black line pointing down the left-hand side. Today, that site we're excavating is quite a way away from the sea now. It's landlocked. You wouldn't have a fishing industry there. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that 2,000 years ago, there were lagoons. The water was stretching in to the shore of Bethsaida. And if you went further back in time, the whole sea came to the edge of Bethsaida, where this spot is. So in other words, the sea has been moving away. By the way, that's not because the sea's been going down in level. That's not been happening. What's been happening is it's been silting up. And the rivers have silted up and it's shifted back. And because of earthquakes as well, it's moved. So the sea level is still the same, actually, as it was at the time of Jesus. But the shoreline has shifted back. That's one of the reasons why this town got abandoned in ancient times and forgotten about, is because you couldn't run a fishing industry there anymore. So it's no good having a house of the fisherman that's landlocked. They abandoned it. And the site was covered in dust. The grass grew and people forgot where it was. But now, if you click on to the next slide, we know there's a big city there. And next time I come, Sarah, next time I come, I want to tell you about that city, because that's the old city of Bethsaida, where I've been particularly involved in that, but that got built on top of. I tell you what, though, if I had an hour to tell you about that one, because that is the time of King David. And that gets really exciting. So, but I want to stick with Jesus tonight, so I'm not going to tell you about that. But I'd love to. Anyway, that's for another time. So that's the original city. That got destroyed. I can tell you about how it got destroyed, and they got buried and built on top of. And we get to the New Testament time, and the sea recedes. You see how far the Sea of Galilee comes in. So on the next slide, here is as it is today. That's as it is today again. So the sea is in the far distance. And I just want you to stop and look at the colors again for a moment, all right? So first of all, it's that black, dark rock again, okay? And that is the site of Bethsaida, this town where 3 of the apostles came from. Then if you look around it, look how green it is. And then you look out to the Sea of Galilee. Remember, 2,000 years ago, that green would have been sea. It's been silting up. The river has been silting up, and the sea has been going further and further away. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Here we are, digging away, 40 degrees centigrade heat. And if you click on to the next one, here's some stuff we find. Holiday photos coming up. What have we got here? Fish hooks from the 1st century. You've got fish hooks. This is not landlocked at the time of Jesus. We've got an anchor stone. This is how they anchor their boats and their nets. It's a stone with a hole drilled through the middle, and you can anchor your boat or your nets that way. We've got these storage jars. So these would be for grain and for other things that they're selling and trading. Then click on. And oh yes, a few more things from the time of Jesus, coins and so on. I'm not going to tell you about those. So let's just click on. And okay, so here we go. Right, so Bethsaida. The Gospels give us lots of little details, right? Lots of little details that show these are written by eyewitnesses to what they saw going on. I want to just point out a couple of little details here that show us this could not have been written much later than the time of Jesus. Now, one reason we know that is because something very special happened at Bethsaida in exactly the year 30 AD, right? And it's exact that year. We know it from the Roman records. From one record, actually, from a Josephus, who's not a Christian. He's not a Christian writer. He's outside of the Bible, but he tells us this happened. In the year 30 AD, the town of Bethsaida changed its name. It changed its name to a Roman name. It became known as Julius, named after one of the Caesars. And it ceased to be called Bethsaida after 30 AD. And it became a pagan Roman town. They built a Roman temple there. We've found some of the remains of it. And after 30 AD, you no longer get any references to Bethsaida. They called it Julius. And it carried on as Julius for a couple hundred years. Then there was an earthquake. It was abandoned. That's one of the reasons why people didn't know where Bethsaida was, because the name changed. And Julius became its name because they wanted to honor a Roman Caesar, became a Roman pagan town in effect, and they forgot the name of Bethsaida. If it wasn't for that one reference outside of the Bible, we wouldn't know they were the same place. But we know that Julius and Bethsaida are the same place. Now, it's remarkable. The only references to this place in the Bible, it calls it Bethsaida, never calls it Julius. 30 AD, important year. About how old was Jesus when he started his ministry?
30.
You're good, 30. I don't know if any of you on Zoom wanted to say that, but 30 years of age, that's about right. And about how old was he when he died then, do you reckon? 33, this is really good. 33, because he had about a 3-year ministry, we know. 3 times he went to the Passover meal in Jerusalem. So 33. Okay, now here's a really difficult question. When do you reckon he was born? Let me give you a clue. King Herod, I should have mentioned this earlier, King Herod died in about 4 BC. Okay, so about 4 BC. So when was Jesus born? Roughly. We can't be exact, but when roughly? It's got to be a bit before, isn't it? It's got to be a bit before, because that's when King Herod was around, when Jesus was born. So hang on a minute, let's just do a bit of maths, right? Jesus has to have been born 6 BC, 5 BC, something like that, right? And he lives to be about 33. So when has Jesus died?
30. No,
30.
Before that.
Well, I mean, it could be, if you do the maths like that, it's going to be, 27, 28,
Yeah.
somewhere around then. But let's say 30. 30 is good with me. But it can't be later than 30. You can't go on, you can't say 33 AD. We sometimes say that, but remember, Jesus wasn't born in the year 0. Okay, that's it wasn't because Jesus was born early, it's because we got the calendar wrong. He wasn't born in the year 0. But it must be around about 30 AD that Jesus died. In other words, Bethsaida is the name of the town at the time of Jesus. That's not the name anymore after Jesus died. Later on in the 1st century, they don't call it Bethsaida anymore. It's called Julius. They've forgotten about Bethsaida. And that's there in the New Testament. And then you get another little detail. Let's look at the colors again. So here we are. Yeah, stop on this one. This is good. This is standing a bit further on than Bethsaida, but nonetheless, it's from Bethsaida looking at the Sea of Galilee. Okay, so there's the Sea of Galilee in the distance. There's Bethsaida, the edge of Bethsaida, let's say. Notice it's yellowy with those stumpy trees there. Now, Can you see snaking through the River Jordan?
Yeah.
That's the River Jordan snaking its way through to the Sea of Galilee. That's the river that's been silting up. Now, what do you think of the color around the River Jordan?
Green.
Very green. All year round, it's very, very green. Why is it so fertile and green? Yeah, because of the water, though, because of the silting up. It's really fertile because that was a sea. And it's silted up and left behind this beautifully fertile soil. So it's very green. If you click on the next one, that's actually the view from Bethsaida, by the way. That's standing on Bethsaida, looking across the Sea of Galilee. So you see the Sea of Galilee in the distance, maybe. Look at how green it is. It's not like that yellow. It's not the yellow grass you see everywhere. It's that. When you next read the Gospel of Mark, you'll notice this one, okay? Now, Mark is a great gospel to read because it's quite short. I like Mark because you can read it through quite quickly, and I like a short book. So Gospel of Mark is quite short. That means Mark isn't wasting words. He tells it like it is, and he tells you everything you need to know, but really quickly. It's a short book. That means he doesn't waste any words. He's not wasting time on long words and long descriptions. He just gives it to you straight. Immediately he uses loads of times. It says immediately. And look at this, if you just click on a slide. Mark chapter 6, verse 39. Then Jesus, this is the feeding of the 5,000, which happens near Bethsaida. We know that. Happens in the wilderness near Bethsaida, we read in Mark chapter 6. And how's it described? Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. How many colors are mentioned in the Gospels? 2. There's only 2 colors mentioned in the Gospels. One is a reference to the purple robe that Jesus wore. It's one reference. The other reference is Mark chapter 6, verse 39, the green grass. That's one of the only 2 references to color. You don't know the color of Jesus' eyes. You don't know the color of his hair. They didn't mention that. But Mark mentions the green grass. Now, tell you what, right? If there's a wasted word, it would be telling me the grass is green, right? I mean, that is unnecessary unless it's special. And it is special because Mark is an eyewitness. He knows what he's talking about. He is somebody who knows that where the feeding of 5,000 happened is in an area of the green grass, just outside of Bethsaida. Next time you're reading Mark and you get to chapter 6, notice how it gets to Bethsaida. He gets off the boat from the Sea of Galilee, and notice that it's there that you get Mark suddenly use the word green. And that's because unlike the other grass, which was not green, yellow, unlike the other grass of this kind of area, this is the green grass. This is the grass of Bethsaida, as an eyewitness would know from 30 AD or just before. So if you just click on, there's so much I want to share with you, but time is rushing by, isn't it? So, yeah, no, time is gone, isn't it? Time is gone, isn't it? Time is gone. I'm on my way out. Look, let me give you. Okay, look. Click. I'm not going to tell you about the death and burial. Click. Click. This is for another time, all right? Click. We'll do the death and resurrection of Jesus another time. Click. It's good though. Click. Yeah, stop that. Yeah, great. Okay, now look, I just want to finish with this one, right? I can multiply these, okay? Just different reasons why when you open up the Bible or read the New Testament, you are not reading myth, fairy tale, or legend. You're reading eyewitness accounts, and that's what the Bible is built upon. And this message, it's spread rapidly around the world. It spreads around the Roman world very quickly, and then it spreads even beyond very rapidly. And this message is taken to the ends of the earth, which means the fingerprints of Jesus are all over this, okay, wherever you look. Do you know the earliest mosaic image of the face of Jesus? Say on the screen, right? That's the face of Jesus in a mosaic form. We know it's Jesus because if you look behind it, do you see it says like a P and then an X? That's actually, the P is actually an R, and the X is a K sound. And that's how they wrote the name of Christ. It's a key row, it's called. X and an R, a P for us, but key row, Christ. It's the first 2 letters of Christ. It's called a key row. And a pomegranate either side. Pomegranate, big deal for the Jewish people. Pomegranates are in the Old Testament. important symbol. Are you all right with this, by the way? I'm loving this. Pomegranate, important symbol. I'm such a geek. But pomegranate, important symbol in the Old Testament, right? Because for the Jews, the pomegranate, and they carved it in the temple, it represents two things. The top of a pomegranate, if you go and buy one from Lidl, a good one, you'll see the top of it looks like a crown. And if you cut it in half, by tradition, by Jewish tradition, if you count those seeds, there's 643 seeds. There's not, because I've tried. There's about 120, the one I got from Lidl, but maybe they got better ones than the ones at Lidl. But anyway, by tradition, 643. Why is that important? The crown represents the kingship. 643 seeds represents the number of laws in the Old Testament. That's the priests, the law, 643 laws. And the pomegranate is the fruit, superfruit, that brings together the king and the priest in one. And who is Jesus? He is the priest and king in one. So that's the pomegranate on either side. Now, here's where I want to land, though. That's the earliest mosaic form of the image of Jesus found anywhere in the world. And where was it found? It was found in Dorset, in a field just outside of Wimborne. It's in the British Museum now. It was dug up in the 1960s. Hinton St Mary, farmer found it in his field. They excavated it. Actually, it's a massive floor, and they took the whole floor to the British Museum, put on display. But now what they've done, if we do the British Museum trip together, we'll go and see it. What they've done is they don't display the whole floor anymore, which is a shame because it's a good floor. But they've just taken out the center circle, which is the face of Jesus, and put it into a display like that. The earliest image is in Dorset. You see the fingerprints of Jesus are all over the place because this message is accompanied by real archaeological evidence. Maybe I'll stop there. Oh no, I've got a gift. I've got a gift. Oh, no, I want to give you something. Look, I want to talk about Bible. This is hard work, this Bible. I love it, but it is hard work to read. 1610, it's hard work to read. Have a look at it later on. But I believe we need to immerse ourselves in the Bible and be reading it. And don't send yourself on a guilt trip if you find the Bible hard to read. Peter found the writings of Paul hard to read. He says that in his letter. So don't get yourself feel guilty. What I think is really useful, and I do this with my friends as well, when friends say to me, I want to read the Bible, I don't give them the Geneva Bible. I don't actually any longer start with this Bible. I give them an easy read Bible. I love this, and I want to give you all a copy tonight. And this is a Bible, right? Which is just pass these around. This Bible, right, is one that I know some of you are great fans, maybe of a different kind of translation. All it is, right, is easy read. So it's an edited version of the Bible. You will get from Genesis to Revelation really quickly. It misses out lots of things. It's not complete Bible. It's more of a paraphrase. It's done in a way that's the printer, by the way, is a man I love very much. He's a guy who was born tongue-tied and autistic. They thought he was unable to read, and they were going to send him off to a special home. They untied his tongue, and he had to teach himself to read as a 13-year-old. And the only thing he could do to teach himself to read is get a copy of the Bible and copy it out and try and read it. And he taught himself to read and became a publisher and a printer. And because he so cares about people being able to read the Bible, he produced this. And it's the colouring in it really helps. It really helps with reading the Bible. The font's quite nice. So anyway, we have a copy of that. And if you want, if you want to set yourself a challenge, right? Don't get yourself guilty over it. It's not about guilt. But set yourself a challenge. 1 month, 2 months, a year, 2 weeks, 1 day. It doesn't matter whether it's a year or a day. Just set yourself a challenge. I'm going to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Okay, I'm going to read the whole Bible cover to cover. I may have done it before, but I've forgotten it. I may have tried before, but got stuck in Leviticus. Well, look, set yourself a challenge and use this Bible, and you read it cover to cover. And it doesn't matter how long you take, but you will get there with this one, and it will give you that overview of the story of the Bible. So anyway, sorry, thank you. I wanted to make sure I got that out. No, absolutely. I've got more in the car. Oh, I've got one. That's all right. Oh, and sorry, you on call? We'll get you. Somehow we're going to do this. We'll get you some. How will we do this? somehow
will do it. They will come to the conference.
come to the conference.
Come
There
to
you
the
go.
conference.
Come to the conference. How many will I need at the conference? Will I need like 200? I'll get you 200.
Yeah, but
300.
because it's only these guys that it's only
No, but I
these
can get you
guys.
more. I'll get you more.
You get more. We'll work it
I'll
out.
get you more. All right. But anyway, you can get yours at the conference. Yeah. I didn't quite finish though tonight, did I? Sorry about that. That's like,
No, don't be sorry at all. Nothing to be sorry about. Yeah. Just stop recording. One moment. Do you want to stop?